against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Several key prophetic fulfillments are presently in progress. Preparation for the mark of the beast, emergence of world government, World War III, one world religion, the rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire, the Great Tribulation, and a Middle East peace plan are all moving forward right on God's schedule. We'll discuss some of these developments on today's edition of End of the Age. Well, we're going to talk about several prophetic fulfillments that are moving forward, and some of these articles that I just came across almost took my breath away. This one in particular. Sweden is on the verge of going completely cashless. What could possibly go wrong? This comes from ZeroHedge.com just yesterday. Sweden is rapidly turning into a cashless society, which seems like the utopian dream of many a governmental figure. What could possibly go wrong from the government's point of view? Isn't it ideal that they could soon digitally control every single person in the country? Actually, quite a few things are going wrong. So much so that even members of the government are expressing concern. Sweden is the most cashless society in the world. The change is happening fast in this European country. No cash accepted signs are becoming an increasingly common sight in shops and eateries across Sweden as payments go digital and mobile. Sweden is widely regarded as the most cashless society on the planet. Most of the country's bank branches have stopped handling cash. Many shops, museums, and restaurants now only accept plastic or mobile payments. Last year, the amount of cash in circulation in Sweden dropped to the lowest level since 1990 and is more than 40% below its 2007 peak. The declines in 2016 and 2017 were the biggest on record. An annual survey by Inside Intelligence released last month found that only 25% of Swedes paid in cash at least once a week in 2017, only 25%, down from 63% just 4 years ago. A full 36% never use cash or just pay with it once or twice a year. It's amazing. Cash is used so infrequently that the government of the country has demonstrated concern. And this isn't just in the big cities. A course in rural Sweden tells me that even in his remote area, the push to go cashless is omnipresent. And of course, there's concern of government control. Now, why are we even talking about this today? Because your Bible talks about a time when every person will have a mark or a number that they will use for buying and selling. It's never happened in the history of the world. The prophecy's 2,000 years old. And yet what I'm reading you, it's obvious. All of this can be fulfilled very rapidly right now. The prophecy is found in Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 through 20. It talks about the 3.5 years right before the second coming of Jesus Christ to this earth and right before the Battle of Armageddon. That's when this is going to be kicked in. It looks like you and I are going to live to see it. Well, the end time's not coming. The end time has arrived. You and I are in it right now. We've got a lot more to talk about. Stay with us. As soon as you say end time, they say, whoa, the end of the world. When's it going to be? And you can see this mask of fear. I'm not telling you the end time is coming. I'm telling you, you live in it right now. Daniel chapter number 7, verse number 4. The first beast was like a lion. We have the eagle used continually to depict the United States of America. You see it on governmental documents. We are the generation for which these that you will not miss one segment of understanding end time, because I've had many people tell me it's changed their life forever. Many of the major prophecies of the Bible are given to us 2, 3, some of them as high as 4 or 5 times. There is not any chance it's not going to happen, because it's in your Bible, it's prophesied, and the prophecies always come back. Where are we on God's prophetic timeline? And we're probably later than most of us think, because we have not one prophecy or two, we've got literally hundreds of them. But some of the major prophecies are of a one world government, of the mark of the beast, of the rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire, of a Middle East peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. And on it goes. There are so many specific prophecies given in incredible detail. Well, the one we're looking at right now is the mark of the beast. The Bible talks about a time when every person will be required to have a mark or a number in order to be able to buy or sell, in order to be able to participate in the economy. Now, that speaks of a cashless society, of course. I mean, how many of us during this Christmas season right now will be picking up the phone, giving our credit card number, buying something, using a number? But the Bible teaches it's going to become even more encroaching than that. The Bible teaches that the one world government that's coming will use their control over the economy to force everyone to pledge allegiance to the one world government. The Bible teaches that unless you worship the beast or pledge allegiance to the one world government, the man called the Antichrist, that your number will not be validated. You have to do it in order to participate in the economy. Now, that's where things are going to really get tough. Now, right now we're watching the cashless society coming at us. Sweden's the most advanced country. I want to continue on where we were talking about Sweden before. It seems rather ironic that it's the government of Sweden that's pointing out the possibility of trouble with government control in a cashless society, especially since they're considering rolling out a new digital currency called the krona. Just imagine if the government were in charge of the digital currency, the amount of control they'd have would be absolutely breathtaking. Could they simply make your digital currency invalid if you owed taxes or were suspected of a crime? Could they wipe out everyone's online accounts in the event of some kind of a bank holiday or economic collapse? If the grid went down in a long-term way, all you've saved would be lost forever. A short power outage would cripple communities. Every single purchase you make would leave a digital footprint, and huge amounts of personal data could be mined from it. And what about the possibility of online bank robberies carried out by hackers? The list of things that could go wrong is infinite. And of course, it all goes back to microchips. Another article from Japan is entitled "Japan Weighs Benefits as well as Health and Security Risk of Microchips." This article was published back in September in the Japan Times. The signs of a future in which humans merge with machines are appearing in Japan as people start to implant microchips in their bodies. But set against considerations of convenience are questions over potential medical law violations, health concerns, and security risk. Although integrated circuit chips are being welcomed by some people who see them being used for everything from electronic payments to unlocking smartphones, the long-term effects of embedding them in the human body are not yet well understood. At an information technology company in central Osaka called Atafuku Lab, Inc., President Takashi Hamanika, 39 years of age, waves his hand across a sensor on a door. A light flashes green and it clicks open. "It is really convenient since I don't need my keys," said Hamamicha with a smile, explaining that he had the short-range wireless communication device implanted under his skin between his thumb and his forefinger in February. So here we see another example, and both of these articles were much, much longer. But we can see that everything is moving toward cashless. Even here in the United States of America, 80% of all purchases last year were done cashless. And every year we develop more. As a matter of fact, it's almost impossible to get a real check from your employer anymore. I think it's required now for employers to withhold everything digitally, to pay you digitally. The government loves it that way. That way everything can be monitored and tracked. Well, the mark of the beast, the technology for it is available right now. Now, are we ready for it yet? No, we're not ready for it, because you can't have the mark of the beast until the beast or the Antichrist is revealed. Now, that's at least 3, 4, 5, 6 years away. We don't know for sure right now. Once a Middle East peace agreement is signed, we will know for sure that the revealing of the Antichrist is 3.5 years away. The Bible is specific about it. And it's during the final 3.5 years, during the reign of the Antichrist, that the mark of the beast will be implemented wherever he is in power. It is going to be the ultimate mechanism of control. And the world's getting ready for it. Now, how did the Bible know this? How did the prophet John, how did he know that this would come someday? I mean, they had no computers, they had no cell phones, they had no internet. It was impossible back in 96 AD when the book of Revelation was written. And yet the descriptions are so stunning and accurate that they're undeniable. And it's coming to pass right now. Now let's look at another thing that's happening in our world. The Bible prophesies world government. This article appeared recently. Countries must give up their sovereignty, join the one world government. This comes from the EU Times on the 25th of this month. No, this statement wasn't something Adolf Hitler said many years ago. This is what German Chancellor Angela Merkel told attendants at an event on globalization and national sovereignty hosted by the Konrad Adenauer Foundation in Berlin on Wednesday, just this week. In an orderly fashion, of course, Merkel went on to say. She even went so far as to condemn those in her own Christian Democratic Union Party who think Germany should withdraw from the controversial UN Migration Pact. She has previously accused critics of the UN Global Compact for safe and orderly migration of not being patriotic, because that is not patriotism, because patriotism is when you include others in German interest and accept win-win situations. Her words echoed recent comments by the beleaguered French President Emmanuel Macron, who stated in a Remembrance Day speech that patriotism is the exact opposite of nationalism, because nationalism is treason, he said. Now, Angela Merkel calls for the creation of a real, true European army. This process of globalization has been going on for quite a long time. It really began back in 1957 when 6 members of Europe came together to form the common market. It has grown from then until today to 28 nations that have a common constitution, a common president, a common foreign minister, and their economies are intricately tied together. So they've been moving toward this dream of one world government, but they don't just see it for Europe. They see it for the world. Now, German Chancellor Angela Merkel called for the creation of a real, true European army during a speech to EU ministers on Tuesday in a rebuke to President Trump. The German Chancellor also called for a European Security Council that would be responsible for coordinating defense policy on the continent. Merkel spoke out after French President Emmanuel Macron floated the same idea last week, drawing the ire of President Donald Trump. Angela Merkel called for the creation of a European army during a speech to the European Parliament on Tuesday. In her speech, Merkel said, "What is really important, if we look at the developments of the past year, is that we have to work on a vision of one day creating a real, true European army." Now, notice this. NATO has been the center of European defense since World War II. And President Trump has been goading the leaders of Europe, saying, you are not living up to your commitment. You're supposed to give 2% of your gross national product toward the defense of Europe, toward NATO. You're not doing it. You're leaving the burden on the United States of America. So President Trump was chastising them, and they all looked at their shoe tops and said, yeah, we haven't done so well. But now, are they planning on doing better? No, they're planning on taking more money toward a European army because they don't want to be under the control of America any longer. Now, note, when money is siphoned off to build a European army, funds going to NATO are going to be diminished. This happens. A lot of people in America very concerned because they're blaming President Trump for alienating some of our closest allies. However, President Trump is right, and the people moving toward a one world government and a European army are wrong. The Bible prophesies that the kingdom of the Antichrist will be headquartered out of Europe, Germany, Great Britain, Russia, and the 10-nation union recently formed by Mr. Macron himself. All of these are going to make up the power base of the Antichrist, but the Bible prophesies America will not be a part. Now, it's going to look like we're being placed off limits. And President Trump is going to be criticized from Dan to Beersheba. However, he is right. We don't want to be a part of the one world government as it's depicted in Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 and 2. Instead, America is shown protecting Israel against the Antichrist and against the powers of Europe. Let's continue the article. We won't protect Europe if we don't decide to have a true European army. That's Angela Merkel. Now, shortly before Merkel spoke, Trump rekindled the feud on Twitter, writing, Macron suggests building its own army to protect Europe against the U.S., China, and Russia. But it was Germany in World Wars I and II. How did that work out for France? They were starting to learn German in Paris before the U.S. came along and bailed them out. Pay for NATO or not? Trump says it's your choice. But he's reminding Mr. Macron that it was only the United States of America and its intervention. I mean, France had already surrendered. They already were being ruled by a puppet government controlled by Germany until America came along, drove the Germans out, and reestablished France as a free nation. Now, what is America getting in return? Well, we're getting the cold shoulder. What's behind all of this? For a long time, the powers of Europe have wanted to be out from under the influence of the United States of America. They're going one way, we're going another. They're going toward one world government. We're going away from it. Now, they thought we were going with them under the Obama administration. And when Hillary Clinton was going to be the president, they thought that we were going to join them in their globalism and in their move toward multilaterally run the world through the United Nations. But then Trump comes along campaigning against globalism. He says, yes, we want to get along with the nations of the world, but we do not intend to surrender our sovereignty. We have a declaration of independence, not a declaration of interdependence. So the Bible prophesies a one world government for the very near future. The biggest feud in international politics today is between Emmanuel Macron and Donald Trump. They are crossing swords. What's the issue? Macron is defending globalism as the wave of the future, and Trump is saying, no, thank you. America will remain a sovereign, independent country. According to the Bible's prophecies, Trump is right. Macron is wrong. You know, I've had several people call this program, since Macron's name is Emmanuel Macron, Emmanuel being God with us, they've called me saying, have you looked up the name Macron to see what it means? Well, I did yesterday. And the word Macron means mark. Now, I'm just telling you the facts. That's what I discovered yesterday. You can look it up for yourself. The Bible talks about the mark of the beast. I am not saying that Emmanuel Macron is the Antichrist. I am saying, though, that he is pushing towards the 10-nation union prophesied in the Bible, out of which the Antichrist will come, and he is pushing toward globalism, which will be the wave of the future as the world moves toward a one world governmental system. But there's two nations that aren't going. One is Israel. The other is the United States of America. There may be others, but the Bible specifically talks about those two nations will not move into this globalism progress. So here we are now. We're watching these prophecies come to pass with stunning accuracy. Who would have thought, even 50 years ago, how can you use a number to travel the whole world with no money in your pocket? Had a friend that went on a world tour for 30 days. She took $15 with her, that's all. The rest was numbers, plastic, credit cards. Well, wait till you get a chip in your hand, and all you have to do is wave it to pay for the bus toll. I mean, already in Israel, you can buy a little card, and you fill it up with a certain amount of money. Every time you get on the train, you just put it in front of the detector. It deducts it from your account, and you don't have to have money to ride the train. This is happening all over the world right now. So, are the end times here? Are we in the end times right now? We are.